In 2015, Carey Price finished the season as undoubtedly the most dominating factor in hockey. Finishing with a 1.96 goals against average and a .933 save percentage, Price became the first goalie in NHL history to win the Ted Lindsay, William Jennings, Hart, and Vezina Trophy all in one season. In that era, goaltending ruled the NHL. By 2016, the average save percentage across the league hit a staggering .915, the highest in history. But in less than a decade, that number has plummeted back down to the levels we saw in the late 80s and early 90s. So, what happened? Did goalies suddenly get worse, or has offenses, and more specifically shooters in the NHL, fundamentally evolved to make goal scoring more frequent? Well, let's take a deeper look. Over the last decade, it certainly feels like goalies haven't fallen off. After all, a goalie in Connor Hellebuyck just won league MVP last year. Instead, it feels that shooters have simply leveled up. The speed, precision, and creativity of NHL players today is unlike anything we've ever seen. The game has come a very long way both for goaltending and shooters. In order to understand how shooting has evolved, we got to understand how goalies have changed over the years. There was a time where goalies were just straight up eating pucks in the face with no helmet. You've seen the clips of guys like Johnny Bower swallowing pucks with his teeth just to make the save. Not to mention, they had on pads that weighed approximately the same as your living room sofa, and they played like they didn't know it was legal to drop down to your knees and make a save. Then the 70s and 80s rolled around and they finally decided, hey, maybe we should protect ourselves. So equipment got bigger and lighter with synthetic materials, replacing all that leather. Some kid named Patrick Waugh came into the league and absolutely dominated using this butterfly style, and then other goalies followed the trend. Goaltending got so good for so long because it evolved ahead of player shooting. It actually got so good to the point where it hurt fan experience of the game. Goal scoring dipped all the way down in the late 90s and early 2000s. Goalies started being selected for their size, equipment became hilariously big, and there was more of a shift towards being in position rather than relying on pure reaction. So with all that, the NHL tried to make goal scoring easier after the 2004 lockout. The NHL boosted offense by cracking down on obstruction, removing the two-line pass rule, shrinking goalie equipment, adding shootouts, and restricting goalie puck handling with the trapezoid. While a sudden spike in scoring did occur, it was followed by the most dominant era of league-wide goaltending. 2007 to 2015 saw the highest goaltending league-wide save percentage in NHL history. Fast forward a decade later and things have certainly changed. Skaters have gone through their own evolution over the years. Equipment has gotten lighter and stick technology has improved so much that it's transformed how players shoot the puck. But like goalies, the evolution for skaters and shooters goes just beyond equipment changes. What's interesting about these numbers is that while save percentage is dipping, so is the average goals per game around the league. And while it still remains above 3, it does indicate the first evolution for shooters in this last decade, and that is a shift in shot mentality. There has been a general transition around the league when to shoot and what shots are being taken in certain areas of the ice. Former Vezina winner and one of the best tendies in the league in Andrei Vasilevsky admitted to this very change, stating players just don't waste shots anymore. They're deliberately choosing higher quality opportunities over low percentage attempts. The NHL Edge data confirms this trend as well, as the number of long-range, unscreened shots has dropped nearly 28% over the past 6 seasons. In addition, perimeter attempts outside the slot are down over 20%. That's because goalies' save percentage from long-range shots are a ridiculous .970. When uncontested, with zero traffic and square to the shooter, the odds of the puck going in is very minimal. As the shooter or offensive team, you end up keeping the goalie engaged and essentially creating turnovers with bad shots. So shooters are straying away from the shoot from anywhere strategy and instead looking for the best ones. And while this shot mentality has changed, so has offensive philosophy in general. Over the last few years, we've seen numerous amounts of teams use the systems like the 2-3, where skilled attackers can set up a high 3v2 and attack downhill. Something we typically saw from the highest scoring team last year in the Tampa Bay Lightning, and one that is commonly used throughout the NHL with their most dangerous players. Analytics has played a big role in backing these philosophy changes, but how exactly are they creating these high danger chances? In order to understand that, we have to know how goalies want to stop pucks. There's a whole checklist of things that will make you think goalies are Jedis, and that's because honestly, they are. On any given shot, a goalie is executing all the fundamentals to try and stop the puck. It starts with reading the play appropriately to make a good decision on the level of depth they should take. Then they need to get square to the puck, all while using anticipation and movement to stay square. Then once they feel that a shot is imminent, they want to set their feet, read the release, and hopefully control the rebound or track the puck for the next play. And really, all of this doesn't even fully scratch the surface. Doesn't sound so easy now, does it? But as we've seen, shooters are catching up. Recently, Ducks forward Chris Kreider went on the Empty Netters podcast to talk about how he transformed himself into a 50-goal scorer.
Human eye can't pick the puck up in under half a second.
Okay.
So if you can get it on and off the stick, especially when across the middle of the ice in under half a second, it's like a 1 in 3 chance that it goes in, crosses twice, and you get it off in under half a second. I think it's like the best chance in hockey, like the slot line, double slot line. So that ends up being like a 66% chance. And he's always used it to coach goaltenders. But I took that and approach as a goal scorer and started putting myself in some of those positions, working on some of those things, mainly release. The number of times you get a puck and you think like, oh, I got to dust this, get my head up and pick a corner. It's like, just get it on and off quick and you have a chance to beat that goaltender. It doesn't matter who it is. That all changed my approach to goal scoring and, again, my positioning and how I thought about generating offense.
This level of thinking among shooters is spreading like wildfire, and it's led to the second evolution, which is a deeper understanding of save and shot selection. Over the years, goalies have become more positional and calculated with their save selection. This means that depending on where the puck actually is, there's a certain save selection, angle, and depth decision that maximizes the goalie's chances at stopping that shot. But now the average shooter is understanding this, and a perfect example of this is the uptick in goals scored from a bad angle, specifically near the goal line. These days, skaters know that if they come down the wing low below the faceoff dot, goaltenders will hug the post in their RVH. Goalies use this save selection to create a better seal around the post, cover the short side, and generate a faster, more comfortable push to the exit position if the puck is moved across the ice. But with shooters understanding this save selection in this area of the ice, they know there's space to tinkle the twine if you put one right by the goalie's ears. When executed perfectly, it can significantly handcuff goaltenders who are less reactionary and more reliant on the save selection. As for shooters, shot selection has become a lot more efficient also. The slap shot itself is the most electrifying shot in hockey, but it's dying. Every single year, there's a decrease in the amount of slap shots and slap shot goals in the NHL. There's a few reasons for this. The biggest one is that the game has become so fast that there's simply no time to cock one back and tee one home. Defenses are far too good at gapping up, back pressure's too tight, and new age sticks are so efficient that it just doesn't justify the extra time it takes to wind up and let the goalie get set. Slap shots, of course, are still used, especially for one-timers, but even there, we've seen an evolution in the release as well. More and more players are opting for this half or reduced windup to cut down release times. This is something we've seen Leon Draisaitl master from his office. The chess match between shot selection and save selection is constantly occurring. Shooters know how a goalie wants to move depending on their approach, angle, speed, and surrounding conditions. Knowing this, if they can trigger the goalie to react before, patterns begin to emerge in their movement. Knowing this, there has been a concentrated effort from players to shoot within the gaps of a goalie's movement. That's why lateral plays and crossing the slot line is key, because areas like the 5 will open up, as well as what we call the 6th hole, which is right above the pads or near the goalie's hips. What it's really about is timing the shot before the goalie's feet get set and square to the puck. Because of these patterns, shooters are adding layers of deception with their release. That leads us to our third evolution, which is changing the point of attack. This is the most noticeable one we've seen over the years, as it's increasing popularity from players like Bedard and Matthews. The rise in players changing the angles against goalies isn't a coincidence. We've seen players do this in a number of ways. They will load up and either use a push shot, or they will pull it into their body and release it. Both are done not only to get around a defender's stick, but to change the angle while unsettling the goalie's feet. With every movement, goalies are trying to stay square, so changing the angle off the shot, goaltenders are forced to move and readjust. Then there's the use of what we call active hesitation. This is when the shooter has a shot loaded up and is moving either on a slant or down a route while holding on to the puck. This hesitation is key because all the conditions of the shot are changing while the player is in a shooting position. We frequently see players use this in a shootout or when one-on-one with the goalie because it forces the attendee to have to keep shifting their feet, potential save selection, and depth the longer the player holds on to the puck. Stack this in a scenario when you have an open man and the goalie commits to the butterfly. A pass usually leads to a yawning cage for a goal. Now, the final evolution to all of this is how teams are creating problems for the goaltenders beyond just the shooter. This is where goal scoring shifts from just the individual to every player on offense, and it can be done in a number of ways. It could be creating pass options on the backside when the goalie's square to the shooter. It could be general traffic at the net, bumper plays, cross-seam options, and all of it is frequently intertwined in a team's offensive scheme. It's why the reigning Cup champs and the Panthers score goals when the games get tight. When clear-cut chances evaporate against really good defensive teams, they stack the odds in their favor by creating all kinds of problems for the goalies in and around the net. They force either the goalie or defense to be perfect, and very rarely are they perfect at the same time. Even against the reigning Vezina winner in Connor Hellebuyck, teams have exposed him in the playoffs by stacking these problems around him. Hellebuyck is one of the most positionally sound goaltenders in the world, but when you introduce traffic, forced lateral movement, and all these previous strategies that shooters are adopting, the odds of beating one of the best goalies in the world begin to improve. The history of this tug-of-war has always been around in hockey. Goalies evolve, shooters adapt, and then the cycle repeats. The NHL doesn't have a goalie problem or worse goalies than they did before. Right now, shooters just have the upper hand, and as save percentages keep dropping, it feels like even the best goalies can still be solved. But this is a never-ending chess match. The question isn't if goaltenders or defensive systems will adapt. It's when. But what that evolution looks like is something that remains to be seen. Guys, as always, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. Check out some of these other channels like the Empty Netters podcast and Daryl Belfry. They were a fantastic source when making this video. Also, the games are starting to begin. The season is right around the corner. Weekly recaps and breakdowns are going to be everywhere on the channel, so make sure you don't miss the next one.